Hey all sports Dill, welcome back to the Dylcast episode. Today we are finally back. It's been a long while, but we are back. We are excited for the postseason coming up tomorrow. And I'm joined by two very special guests. Max is here today, his camera's off, and Jared is also here today. So boys, wanna say hi for a sec here?
Yeah, hi, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to come back. Playoffs starting tomorrow. It's obviously very exciting. I'm a Leafs fan. I have my hat right here, hoping to see a bit of a better result. But I guess we'll get into those predictions later on, and it's going to be a fun time. No matter what happens, it's always amazing hockey. The playoffs, in my opinion, best playoffs in all of professional sports, and it's all kicking off tomorrow, and I absolutely can't wait.
Alright. And Max?
Yeah, those are some very compelling points. I'm also very excited. Um, Not sure how the Leafs are gonna do. I guess we'll discuss their opinions in a moment, but just hoping they go as far as they go.
Yeah, looking forward to this one. So let's get started here. Alrighty, guys. So the first series is Florida Washington, the President's Trophy winners. Uh, this is gonna be a series that I think most people expect. It's a one-way series for sure. But yeah, I guess there's not much into it. Aside from Florida, I guess I'll kick it off with my prediction. I mean, even with Ovi coming back from injury in a bit, who knows what when he's gonna come back in this series? That's gonna suck for Washington. And Florida, one part of that squad is for the Panthers this year. They need their goaltending to be sharp. Last year, Dreger, Knight, and Bobrovsky, I think, all played some minutes in their series against Tampa, and all of them struggled. So if they want to get past, I don't know, the first round this year, I mean, that should be pretty simple. But if they want to go far in the playoffs this year, the goaltending is going to be key to their key to success. They're going to play a lot of good goaltenders this year in the playoffs, yeah, they gotta be sharp. And who's also, I think Washington, they need to fix their goaltending up. I mean, Samsonov, Vanacek, who's going to be their starter for them? I have a few notes here, but there's not too much to say about this series. I'm saying Florida in five. But yeah, no, this is probably the easiest series to predict out of all of them. To be completely honest, it's a pretty good, actually in the Eastern Conference for sure, but in the West, maybe it could be a little bit easier to say. But I'd say Florida in five. Maybe Cap steal a game with Obi coming back. But this is the Panthers series to lose, but I think they'll win it. So yeah. Any discussion about that? You guys agree?
Um, Well, to be honest, I'm gonna save mine for my prediction. But what I will say is, all four division winners have never, sorry, go dating back to the past lockouts, and dating back from the 2021 playoffs all the way back to 2006, the first playoffs after the lockout. Only two times have all four division winners moved out of the first round. The division winners, of course, this year it's Colorado, Calgary, Florida, and Carolina. And to be honest, I think one of them will be upset. And the one I am most concerned about the way they play heading into the playoffs, I don't think Florida's a very good playoff style team. I mean, they currently have the longest drought of not getting out of the first round. It isn't these guys. The Florida Panthers haven't made it out of the first round since the 90s, since 1996. And I'm not going to say yet what my prediction is, but I think it's going to be more of a series than people think. And for the reason for that is just Florida plays a very sloppy, skating, loosey goosey style of play. And sure, that works wonders in the regular season. Of course, they won the President's Trophy. But I think in the playoffs, things tighten up a lot more. Washington's a team that has more playoff experience than the Panthers. And Washington is a stronger defensive team than them. And as much as, yes, Bobrovsky is a better goalie, he's also very up and down. And if either of Vanacek or Samsonov catches fire, I think it's going to be a closer series than a lot of people predict. And that's all I'm going to say before I get into my prediction after. First, we're going to let Max say his prediction. But I'm just going to say, never count the ability of a team to upset a top seed. It has happened many times before. I mean, heading into 2019, who would have predicted the Blue Jackets to sweep the Lightning? I think
Exactly. Yeah.
it is going to be a closer series than a lot of people predict. And hey, anything could happen.
I'll take the next comment, but Max, you go ahead and you say your prediction.
Alright, so thinking about this matchup, most people I feel like would say no brainer. Florida's winning. At first, I had the same prediction as Dylan, but feel like I was thinking about earlier, like a bit ago, thinking about this. Florida is not a playoff team. I'm pretty sure Jared talked about this a bit ago. But yeah, Florida is not a playoff team. They have. When's the last time they got out of the first round? I can't remember.
96.
96. That's longer than the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is which is a weird thing to say. Thinking about Toronto, but yeah, it's a weird thing to say. And I think Florida will come out of the series, but I think Washington's gonna take it to 6. Obviously, no Ovi, but the amount of players that Washington has, that's one. How many players do they have that has won the cup? Is John Carlson, Kuznetsov, Backstrom,
Quite a bit of the roster's back. Obviously,
Yeah,
like the newer additions, it's guys like Mantha, but pretty much a lot of that core that won the cup is still back.
Yeah, like they have so much playoff experience compared to the Florida Panthers team. Like, there's only like one player on that team that's like won the cup, and that's Carter Verhaeghe. But like, no, I don't think anyone else on that team has come even close to winning the cup. And with their experience, I do think they'll make it out. But I think Washington can't push to 6 with all the veteran playoff experience.
So, Jared, you were gonna say something?
Well, I mean, I think realistically, Florida should win this one. I mean, they are a better team, and I agree with you as much as Washington has the more playoff experience. I think at the end of the day, Florida is a better team. So I'm definitely not gonna criticize your opinion, and it definitely could happen. But again, I'm keeping my mouth shut a little bit because this is my big hot take of the playoffs.
Okay, well, I'm excited to see that. But I have first a few quick notes. Jared, I can see what side you're kind of leaning towards within the next minute or two. But before you let loose on Florida, I know there's a team that's skeptical on. I mean, I just want to say, like the last game of the season, 10-2 loss. That was pretty fun to watch.
In fairness, they didn't have like any of their core playing. Like I was making fun of them a bit too, and then I looked into who they actually had playing. It is no one that is going to be a big part of this series, so I can't really put too much stock into that one. But yeah, I don't know. I think they're a sloppy team. I think they're a phenomenal regular season team, but to be honest, I'm having a little bit of a hard time seeing their play style translating into the playoffs. I mean, how many times this year their way of winning games, and sure, at the end of the day, they got the win, but it was finding themselves down 4-1, 5-1. Sure, they climb back and get the points, but if you're down 4-1, 5-1 in a playoff series, obviously I know the example you're thinking of 2013 with the Toronto Maple Leafs and Boston Bruins, but 99% of the time, how many times are you crawling your way back with a deficit like that? I just think they play a very loose style of play, and sure, it works wonders, but I don't see it translating well into the playoffs. Phenomenal team, though, and I think they will be back, and probably soon, within the next few years, they could make noise in the playoffs. This is the first year they've really been that dominant in the regular season, and I don't know necessarily, like, I wouldn't be shocked if they get upset. And again, like, I just don't think they're that great of a playoff style team.
And I said it as well in my notes. I said usually there is an upset in the first round. Potentially, it could be this series. Maybe Washington has enough to get it done against this team, but I think just the Panthers are too good. Maybe they get knocked down the second round because they just aren't enough. But I mean, Washington, Max said it. Washington has made the playoffs. That core has a lot of experience. They know what to do when times get tough. I mean, you're right. They're one of the best teams in the league when coming down, when coming back. So maybe if they're ever down, then I think Florida can turn things over. So that's a big asset to have for your team, a good comeback team. But I think the Panthers are just too good to lose in the first round. And maybe if they get over that first round hump, maybe they can unlock whatever they need to do. So if they can beat Washington, who knows? The sky's the limit for Florida, really. But they need to like the Leafs, they need to get over that first hump, that first round, and maybe it's just I don't know, smooth sailing from there on out in the playoffs if they're able to get past that hump. So I'm saying Florida, but I'm saying I wouldn't be completely surprised if the Capitals pull through. It'll have to be 6 or 7 for sure.
Yeah, and I guess that's gonna lead me into my predictions. And I mean, I'm sure you probably predicted it with the way I'm talking about Florida. I actually have this one being the biggest upset of the playoffs. I have it going to Game 7 because again, Florida should win this series. They're not really a playoff style team though, and with a dramatic choke, I think the Washington Capitals take it home in Game 7, moving on to the second round. I just don't see the way the Florida Panthers play translating well into the playoffs. As I mentioned, they constantly find themselves having to rely on coming back into games. And yes, it's a good skill to have, but I don't think that's a strategy that works well in the playoffs. If you're finding yourselves consistently down in games because you're starting off slow, very rarely are you going to end up finding a way to crawl back into that game in the playoffs where teams are playing so smart, so defensively responsible. I just don't think the fact that they constantly start off slow and have to crawl back into games, I just don't think it's a good strategy. And as well, a lot of their wins this season came in 3-on-3 overtime. I mean, they set a record in I believe in the salary cap era as they have the most 3-on-3 overtime wins, or just most overtime wins in general. And sure, it's a great thing and it helps the record and help them clinch the President's Trophy, but you quite literally are not going to see 3-on-3 hockey in the playoffs. So I don't think the fact that they have so many more wins than everyone else is such a big indicator of how they'll do in the playoffs. And I really just think Washington is a stronger defensive team. And yes, they aren't a big shutdown team. I think against a shutdown team, Washington could find themselves in trouble. But against the Florida Panthers, that are as well a loosey-goosey team, I think Washington has more of the heavy hitters in that series, guys like Tom Wilson that'll get under the stars of the Panthers' skin. And ultimately, I think this series definitely has the makings for upset potential. And back to my initial point, it's very rare to see all four division winners moving on in the playoffs. I mean, since 2006, since after the lockout, only twice has it happened where all four teams have made it out of the first round. I think one of the teams is going to get upset, and you can make an argument for one of the other teams, but I think of those four, Florida's the one that I'm most concerned with. I don't really think their strategy bolds well in the playoffs whatsoever. I could very much be proven wrong, but that's just my opinion. I don't like the way, not that I don't like the way their team is built, I just don't see this season their skill translating into a playoff series.
All right. Well, we already talked a little bit about that. So, disagree, but like I said, it could happen. It definitely is possible. Now, moving on to the series,
Hold on. I want to say something like really quickly.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, of course, I still have Florida winning, but I think an interesting point is, and no, I was searching this up. I was looking about last year with Panthers versus Lightning. There's 2 times where they're like, I'm just saying, looking at this, they're not really a playoff team. Like they somehow they beat the Lightning 6-5 in one of the games, but 2 times the Lightning beat them by 4 goals. And when Tampa Bay Lightning won the series, they won 4-0, and then they also won 6-2 one game. Like the Panthers don't have the playoff experience. I still do have them winning. Still do think they are gonna win, but the amount of playoff experience they don't have compared to the Capitals is like a mile, like a long shot.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so yeah, like I said, moving on to the series, I think we'll be here for a little while longer than that Florida series. But we'll have to wrap her up as a little bit quicker than I think this. We could talk all day, all week, all month, all year about the Toronto Maple Leafs and this series if we had the time. Unfortunately, we are limited to we are limited today. Sorry, but I think we can talk about this series the most. The Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think this is the most entertaining series in the entire first round, in my personal opinion. It's just the amount of star power we are about to witness against each other in the postseason. It's going to be crazy. And I have a hot take here. This is probably my hot take of the series. Game 1, whoever wins Game 1 will win the series. I think the Leafs have so much confidence going into this. Last year, if they had I know they had home ice. If they had their fans, I think it could have turned around. We were, I don't know, what was it, 1-3 on home ice last year. If we had our fans in the arena, these fans are the most annoying, loud fans in the league. So if we had them there, plus the fans outside for the tailgate, I know Jared's going tomorrow. So if the Leafs have that and they win it, then it's I think Toronto can just hold on to that. They've won. I mean, obviously they got dominated last time they played Tampa, but last time they were in Bali, they won a pretty big game themselves. So the Leafs are a team that have shown they can win on the road as well as on home. But the same goes for Tampa. If they can win Game 1 and we see that they can easily just squash the Leafs' hopes and Leafs fans' hopes on Game 1 on home ice, I think this could be easy for Tampa. We can see that right away. Tomorrow is a big night for hockey, and I think I think we will we will know the winner after tomorrow's game at 10 p.m. around, or I don't know, it's 7:30. I'll figure something out. But anyways, that's just my hot take. But this is a very even series. If the Leafs, you know, turn this thing over, and with all the doubters, I think that they can also carry this thing very long. They can be one of the better teams. They can create a dynasty if they, like I said with Florida, if they can get over this one hump. But yeah, no, it's gonna be really hard, and I think this is just gonna be a very evenly matched, great series to watch. So, and then another hot take: if this series goes to 7, it's the Tampa Bay Lightning winning the series every time. If this series goes to 7. But I think if we win it, I think this game goes to 5 or 6, and the Leafs have a series lead. I don't think they're gonna blow it this year. I think game 5 or 6 is where it's gonna happen if the Leafs win. It won't be 7 for sure. I think Leafs win in 6 is my prediction. Probably
Really?
a lot of bias here, guys. I'm gonna be honest. There's definitely a lot of bias. Andrei Vasilevsky is gonna be in playoff mode. Is also gonna be a big factor. Because if Toronto can't get past him, then that series is over. So he's going to have to let up some goals for Toronto to pull through. But no, I think it's going to be a tough series. Tampa might win the grit and grind, but if Matthews and Marner and Nylander and Tavares, if people stay healthy and people contribute for Toronto, they can, no doubt in my mind, win a series. I know I'm saying this, and in 2 weeks I'm going to be crying, but I'm going to say they'll win every year, and eventually I'll be right, hopefully in my lifetime once. So, definitely a lot of bias here, but I think this series could go both ways, to be completely honest.
Yeah,
But yeah.
Well, what I was going to your point about the winning the first game, off the top of my head, I don't know what the actual percentage is, but that's a genuine thing that winning the first game in a playoff series, more times than not, it ends up contributing to the team that ultimately ends up winning it. So I do agree with you that tomorrow night's game is very important when it comes to deciding the winner of this series. In general, though, what I will say, on one hand, you have Andrei Vasilevsky. On the other hand, you have Jack Campbell. It's a pretty tough series for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I'm not going to say your prediction's wrong. I think the Toronto Maple Leafs absolutely, the big word I use is capable. They are capable of winning this series, but in my opinion, I feel like more stuff would have to go right for the Leafs to win it, as opposed to the Lightning, who are, in my opinion, kind of expected to win it. For the Leafs, we have to avoid the top 4 getting shut down, which last year, yes, obviously Carey Price played amazing, but last season it was Philip Denault absolutely shutting down Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews. We have to find a way to avoid the top stars getting shut down. But as well, the defense needs to play phenomenal. Jack Campbell needs to play not quite superhuman, but he needs to play unbelievable hockey in order to allow this Leafs team to win. And yes, it's possible for them to win. Obviously, I'm not going to reveal my prediction quite yet. I think it's going to be a very close series, though. And I think if we weren't considering the playoff history of these two teams, I do agree with you that they're very evenly matched. And I think this series goes at the very least 6 or 7. But in general, I think ultimately it is going to come down to those final few games. And we know the Leafs' resume in those elimination games, whereas Tampa Bay, they've won their last 8 playoff series. So it's definitely, as much as you have to try to avoid the bias about what happened in the years past, it is pretty hard to ignore the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions against a team that struggled to get out of the first round. So it's going to be a very close series because on paper these teams match up well. But ultimately, we're going to see what happens. But I do think I'm leaning a little bit more towards it is going to be a tough road for the Toronto Maple Leafs to overcome those champions just because of how they do in these elimination games and how they do when they're under pressure. And then you look on the other hand about how the Leafs do. So I think it will be very close, and I'm not going to reveal my prediction. The Leafs are more than capable of doing it if all those checklist things go right. If we get top six production, bottom six production, defense, goaltending, all of these things, if they go right, I genuinely believe that I've seen signs and growth in our team this season. And I do believe we could do something great and are capable of greatness. But also part of me is telling myself, until I see us get through a round, how could I confidently predict us to go on this crazy run? So it is a little bit of having to battle with what my head is telling me and what my heart is telling me. So that's the main thing, trying to avoid bias and just consider there's a lot of different ways the series could go. The Leafs are capable, though, and that's the one thing I'm holding my hat on a little bit, is we have the skill and the capability if everyone steps up.
Yeah, you give some good points there. I agree with you. I don't know about Toronto making a deep playoff run. I don't know what everyone has said. I'm not gonna say mine yet, but I don't know about Toronto like having like the what's it called, the capability to go through Tampa, which is an outstanding team, back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, and with that good of a team, I'm not gonna spoil it, but I'm not gonna you might already know, leaning towards it, but I don't know if Toronto is fully capable of uh, getting to of beating a team that has won the Stanley Cup 2 times. Of course, the teams they faced aren't as good, but they still are like an outstanding team. Braden Point's coming back, I'm pretty sure, and yeah, and when that team is in full that team is in full roster, like its full roster is set, and all the lines are set. I don't know if Toronto's gonna be able to face up against them. Obviously, Toronto is an outstanding team as well. Pasha and Bunting coming back eventually, but like I don't know if Toronto has the capability of getting to uh, getting to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. And yes, like you said, the goalies are a bit interesting. Jack Campbell, bit of a slump, came back. He's obviously not as good as he was, but he's definitely getting back into that groove. And I feel like if he can stay like that, he can be a good solidified goalie. And I feel like Shalgren, if we need him to step up for like maybe a game or two, I feel like he's capable of that. Obviously, no playoff experience, but look at Jack Campbell. Last year didn't have any playoff experience, and he did take Montreal to 7. So I don't know what's gonna happen, but I feel like whatever happens, I just hope the Leafs win.
Yep. Respectful point. So, do you guys want to quickly say how much you got, when this, like your predictions for this series, and then we have some technical difficulties in a minute, but quickly say what your guys' prediction is.
Ultimately, I do think that the experience of the Tampa Bay Lightning will prevail. And again, the Leafs are going into these playoffs very hot. They've had an unbelievable season, a record-breaking season, our best season in over 105 years. But ultimately, our reward for that is going up against the back-to-back champions. I do think we bring them all the way to 7, but at the end of the day, I do think the Lightning will prevail, and it would be heartbreaking, but at the end of the day, in a 7-game series, I just think the Lightning are that little bit better. They have the better goaltending, and I do think that'll carry them through the series.
Max, I'll let you talk in just a sec. Like you said, Jared, and like I said earlier, I've been thinking about. I've thought about this before. If the Leafs went to to keep their season alive, a do or die game, like a single knockout, right? Like the NFL, they would lose a game against every single team in the NHL due to the pressure. That's just a hot take. I don't want to expand to it too much because I want to let Max talk, but I think the Leafs just struggle under pressure. If any series goes to 7, at least for a while, the Leafs are just gonna choke. So like against Buffalo, Seattle, Montreal, teams like that, they're just gonna lose. So Max, sorry, I just had to say that, and go ahead, say your prediction quickly.
Alright, yeah, I'll say it like super quickly. I'm just gonna say something real quick. I'll say something real quickly after. I have Tampa Bay defeating the Toronto Maple Leafs in 7. I don't think Toronto's capable of winning in a 7-game series. As before, you've seen Boston. Look what happened in Columbus. That they lost in 5 and it almost got swept by
Okay, we get it. We
Columbus. But
get it.
yeah, we'll be back in a sec. We just have to do something.
Alright, guys. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Max, go ahead.
Right, so yeah, weird thing happened there. But yeah, like I was saying, with the past years not looking so good, and obviously our team has changed quite a bit over the years, spanning between 2017 and now. But I don't know if you guys watched it with you. I don't know if you guys watched the Steve Dangle video, but he made some compelling points as well. But I don't know if I don't know if Toronto's capable of winning a 7-game series. At least as of right now, maybe in a year or two they can. But if it's the Tampa Bay Lightning, I don't think they can win in 7. Like Dylan said, maybe they can if they can somehow win in 5 or 6. But I think if it goes to 7, I think Tampa has the upside, and I think they are going to defeat the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
One thing I just want to quickly add before we move on to the next matchup, I wouldn't say the word that the Leafs aren't capable. I genuinely do believe the way that the Leafs have played this season, they've shown a lot of capability of being able to step up to a lot of big opponents. I don't think it's a matter of not being capable, because we play well against these big time teams, and that's why I don't actually hate the thought of the Leafs going into a series as a big underdog, as we saw what happened last year when the Leafs were a big favorite. They folded under that pressure. Us going into a series against the back-to-back champions as an underdog, a team that we've actually played very well against, ignoring the 8-1 loss, because again, we didn't have Matthews in there, we had Shalgren and net, so I'm willing to excuse that 8-1 loss. But all season long, in the 3 games before that big-time loss, we stepped up well to the Tampa Bay Lightning and played very well against them. I do think we match up well against them, and honestly, a part of me wouldn't be that shocked if we found a way to take them out, because we have the capability, and I genuinely believe we have a team that matches up well against them. We have a very strong team. Don't forget that difference to last year, where we went in struggling last year. We're going in on a winning streak right now, and we're playing very hot. Everyone looks very confident, and if we could carry over the play of Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews into a series, I honestly think we have a shot, and I think we're going to take them to the very end. But as much as I'm not going to say the Leafs aren't capable, I do think I'm going to agree with Max in the sense that Tampa's ultimately just a better team. They're the expected team to win because they've showed up when it counts. And whereas the Leafs have folded under the pressure, Tampa's thrived under that pressure. And they, in last year's playoffs, got shutouts in all 4 elimination games, eliminating their teams by a shutout. And it just shows you how they step up to the challenge when they have the chance to put the dagger in a team's back. And I do think they're going to end up getting another opportunity to do that in a Game 6 or a Game 7, and ultimately they're just the better team, and I do think they're going to find a way. Vasilevsky, Jack Campbell, I know who I'm leaning towards. He's an unbelievable goaltender, and I think that's going to help Tampa Bay, unfortunately, eliminate my Toronto Maple Leafs.
I just want to say something really quick, and then you can talk, Dylan. Yeah, like, don't get me wrong. If the Leafs win, I will be screaming as loud as possible, wearing that Austin Matthews jersey. I'm sure people will be wearing whatever Toronto jersey they prefer. But I think, I don't think like you said, the Leafs are perfectly capable of it. But looking at the past years, they have so many upsets. I'm not gonna list them again. But yeah, they have so many upsets, and I don't know if that's gonna help them have the confidence to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. And going to Game 7, the amount of pressure on both teams will be crazy. But I feel like on Toronto, there's gonna be way more pressure because of the past. But yeah, I just don't think the Leafs are going to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. And yeah, like I said before, all those good players, they both do. But I think Tibbs can take the upside. Do you want to say something else?
Yeah. So that's pretty. It's a good little talk there, but now we gotta make things a little bit shorter. Obviously, like I said, we can talk about the Leafs all day. I'm the only one who gets to talk about them more because I have them winning. So, but yeah, I know Carolina, Boston, the next series. The big probably factor with the series is Frederik Andersen being hurt. Antti Raanta is back for Game 1, so he will be hurt. The Hurricane starter. Fortunately, they don't have to go with that rookie goalie, but. I think that could be a part of I think this is going to be the most highest scoring series of the first round. If you think about it, Boston, both of their goalies have never been in played a playoff game before. Linus Ullmark has always been with Buffalo, and Jeremy Swayman, I think he's in his rookie year, or
Yeah.
sophomore
No, he's a
season.
rookie.
But yeah,
Did he play last year?
No, he's a rookie.
Oh,
yeah,
I
no.
thought Swayman was with Boston last year.
Yeah, I he played like an individual game, but not enough for it to be considered a full season. Like he qualifies as a rookie. He's eligible for the Calgary.
Yeah, he probably just played in the AHL a bunch.
Yeah, so yeah, no, like I said, I think this will be one of the higher scoring series of the first round. And with Freddie Anderson out, I think Boston has upper hand in goaltending. I guess, I don't know who you go with as your starter. I'd have to search that up. If one of you boys can do that for me, that'd be great for your predictions as well.
For the Hurricanes or for the Bruins?
For the Bruins, who's their starter?
I believe they're starting with Allmark, but I imagine, depending on how game one goes, I imagine they'll kind of like both are technically their starters. Like they've played pretty even minutes throughout the season. So it honestly they could go with either, but I think game one they'll probably go with Allmark.
Yeah, no. So we'll have to see how the goaltending goes there, but I would say this is going to be a tough one. Like I said, one of the higher goal scoring series is. I think this will just be I don't know. It'll still be another entertaining series to watch with all the goals. Even in the playoffs, it's always fun to see stuff like that happen. So I think although without their starting goalie, without their playoff or all-star formerly Freddie Anderson, I think Carolina just has enough to hold off Boston. Although I could see the Bruins taking this one, I think Carolina will hold on, like I said, and win this series in 7 games. I think the Hurricanes have just enough. They got their roster is just it's a great it's a perfectly built-in roster. They got veterans, they got young guns. Their defense is very talented. What a year for Tony DeAngelo! All right, like Carolina is a great team. They had a great. I mean, they dropped off a little bit. I thought they were going to be the clear Eastern Conference winner, but they dropped off, and obviously Florida took over. But I don't want to be that type of person. I don't like when, like you said, all first seeds move on. It's like I don't think it's fun when that happens. But I think Carolina is the most Carolina's the most possible team to lose in the first round out of the four 1 seeds. And I think Boston, like I said, I could see this going both ways, but I have to go with the Hurricanes in 7. They've been just too good as of the last few years, and I think they will pull through against Boston in their third rematch in the last 4 years. Boston took the first 2 matches, and Carolina getting revenge this series.
Yeah. For now, I'm gonna hold off on giving my thoughts just because I'm gonna be talking quite plenty about the Carolina Hurricanes throughout this video. So I'm gonna hold off on my thoughts on that. But you know what? I'm not even gonna say anything. I just want to say very fair prediction, and I'll get to mine in a little bit because I have quite a few thoughts.
All right, Max, go ahead.
Yeah. You have some good points. I'm gonna agree with you. I'm just gonna say now, I'm gonna agree with you on Carolina winning. I don't think there's much to say after Don made many great points about Carolina Hurricanes. Boston Bruins, yes, they do have their goalies, but I still think Carolina is going to come on top, and I think Boston's only going to win too. Obviously, Freddie Anderson's out, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be back sometime in that series. And Antti Raanta obviously is not even close to as good as Freddie Anderson, but I think Antti Raanta can hold up the fort, maybe pick up a game, 2 games, something like that. And then when Freddie Anderson comes back, it's gonna be kind of a shit show for the Boston Bruins. But I think the Boston Bruins can't beat the Carolina Hurricanes. I've seen many people on Twitter and stuff think Boston will come on top, but I don't think Boston is capable of beating Carolina at this point. Even without Freddie Anderson, they are such a good team compared to Boston, and I don't think they will. I don't care what you guys say here, but I do not think they are capable one bit to beat the Carolina Hurricanes. Maybe you disagree with me, but I do not think they are capable with how good the Carolina Hurricanes have been and how good they are. I think they are going to come on top.
All right. Well, there's a lot to say about that one, but yeah, Jared, you go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I will say, I'm not going to say the Bruins aren't capable because I don't think you could ever count out Bergeron, Marchand, Pasternak, all those guys. They are a phenomenal team, the Boston Bruins. But in saying that, I am very, very, very high on the Carolina Hurricanes. I think they're an absolutely phenomenally built team. The only thing that's going to make this a series is the fact that in the last little month or so, actually on the same day that I put money on the Carolina Hurricanes winning the Stanley Cup, Freddie Anderson ended up going down with an injury. That is going to make it a closer series than maybe it otherwise would have been. However, the Carolina Hurricanes play such a good defensive style of hockey, and they've shut down guys such as Jacob Slavin that are going to be able to shut down the stars of the Boston Bruins. And for that reason, I'm agreeing with Max's exact prediction. I have Carolina moving on in Game 6. Again, it's not that the Bruins aren't capable, because they very much are, and I'm quite nervous saying that 100% a team is going to move on, because I do think with their starting goalie getting injured, it's going to be a very close series. However, luckily for the Hurricanes, in their goalie getting injured, the goaltending duo that they're matching up against, it's not like they're playing Vasilevsky, which very much was a possibility. They're luckily only ending up playing Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman, which, not that they're bad goaltenders, but they're definitely beatable goaltenders. And for this reason, I definitely think that the Hurricanes are capable of holding those guys off. And I think this is going to be a very good series. The defense of the Hurricanes, one of the best defensive teams in the league, that more importantly, they're going into the playoffs as the hottest team in the entire National Hockey League. In their last 10 games, they're 8-2-0. They're on a 6-game winning streak heading into the playoffs. And for these reasons, I think they're going to carry that momentum into the playoffs, use their defense to shut down the Bruins, and I think they're moving on into the second round, winning the series in Game 6.
All right. Can I go first?
Yeah.
So looking for there's I think it was a week or something like that, maybe 2, that Tampa, Toronto, and Boston were all in kind of like that same point in the standings. All like at one point Toronto was in the wild card, at one point Tampa.
I think Florida was like high above them all, but yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, those 3 teams, they were all like rotating around in those 3 positions.
Yeah.
And I think that I think like I don't know. I think that maybe Freddie Anderson was there the whole time. I could see the Carolina even sweeping, or maybe go to 5. Obviously, Boston was like close to Toronto and Tampa for like that last little point of the year, like sometime there. And yeah, they were close, but I just think Toronto and Tampa are better all around. And I think I'm getting a bit off track here, but yeah, I think if they played, it'd be a different type of series. But I don't think Boston is capable to be capable is a big word, but I don't think they're fully possible of defeating the Hurricanes, and Freddie Anderson's not even with them right now.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, a little segue from what you said to the next series. I think with Boston, with Tampa, Toronto, and Boston being so close, it's a little unfair what the series is, because Boston, like, they are, I still think the NHL should do this. I always think they should do this. They should do the 1 through 8 standings like the NBA does, maybe without the play-in tournament. I don't really think the NHL should include that, but I think 1 through 8, I think that's the way to go. Boston is a better team than Pittsburgh and Washington. They had better records than Pittsburgh and Washington, yet they're only being able to be a wild card team, when in reality they would be 3rd in the Metro and would have played I would say New York's an easier actually that's a discussion for another time, but like a little segue here, Boston was better than New York and Pittsburgh and Washington, and Boston should have an easier matchup, but just the way the standings are, they're gonna have to play a harder team in Carolina, and I guess we all have the Hurricanes taking the win. So moving on, I think this series between the Rangers and the Penguins is gonna be a very exciting matchup. Seeing the Rangers back in the playoffs, and I gotta be honest, this is my hot take of the series. I think this series will be a lot less close than I think people expect. I think the Penguins. Yeah, I don't think the Penguins have enough. I think the Rangers are so good this year. They made a very nice trade at the trade deadline to acquire Andrew Kopp. Their defense, that's something they can improve on. But Adam Fox is healthy. The Rangers, I'm not sure what exactly their injuries are right now, but I just don't think Pittsburgh has enough. I mean, Letang he's had a good year, but he's not back to his old self. his prime is over. Like they're all of these Pittsburgh players have peaked. They added Ricardo Raquel. That was a good addition, but I haven't really seen too much of him since he was acquired by Pittsburgh. And I really think, even though the Penguins have a good team, I think they're done. They've lost to another New York team for twice, and they almost got dominated. I mean, their goaltending's a whole different problem. Jari was hurt Jari played horribly last year. This year he's injured, and even when he does come back, who knows if he's gonna play that well, right? So that's something for Pittsburgh that they really gotta pray that one of their goalies is gonna end up contributing to the team, because if not, they are done. And I think when Jari comes back, I know DeSmith is playing game 1. I saw something about that, but when Jari comes back, or if, I think it'll be too late, even if he does play well. And I think the Rangers are going to win in 5. So, hot take.
Very
that's my hot
interesting.
take. But yeah.
See, the way the teams are built, I honestly do think it's going to be a close series. But I see your point. I think on paper the Rangers now are a lot better, and they're a lot younger of a team. So in that, you have to consider that they're a lot fresher. A lot of guys are just now reaching their primes, whereas you could make an argument that some of the Penguins players are not quite washed, but definitely past their prime. And I do agree with that point. The one thing is, though, I don't know if I love the Rangers' style in a playoff series. I think they did make efforts at the deadline to get better defensively, but as much as, yes, Adam Fox is like a superstar, young, fast, creative defenseman, in the playoffs, you need more shutdown guys. And I don't know if I see a whole lot of shutdown ability in the way that the Rangers play. I don't have anything against the Rangers. I'd be more than happy to be proven wrong. But I don't love the way they're built, to be honest. And I think, yes, at the beginning of the season, they relied a lot on the power play. They did find some 5-on-5 success later on in the season, but still they're a team that sometimes relies a little bit too heavily on the power play for my liking. And as much as, yes, Shesterkin is an X factor that could 1,000% carry the Rangers through a series, I think it's going to be a very close series. And again, without revealing my prediction, I think it's going to be really close. And I see a lot more of that playoff-style shutdown ability in the way that the Penguins play.
Mm-hmm. So, Max, sorry, I'm going to reply to Jared real quick. And I know what you mean. The Rangers do rely heavily on their 5-on-5. On their power play to get their goals for them. And in the playoffs, power plays come a lot less often, and I think that'll be a huge factor. I think I could see Pittsburgh winning this, but I think the Rangers, like you said, Pittsburgh is probably out of their prime by now. I don't think they're fast enough, and the NHL is getting younger. If you look at these games now, it's not. If you look at these games compared to 5-6 years ago, you'd see the difference. The puck is moving so much faster. The plays people are making are so much different. The NHL this year is gonna be the playoffs this year is gonna be like that. Even with the playoff mentality, I don't think it's gonna change too well. And the Rangers are a team that's been able to adapt to this new style of hockey. And I think the Penguins they might be stronger 5-on-5, but I just don't think they'll be able to keep up. They're going to have to shut down New York, as well as get past the best goal in the NHL. So I think there's just too much weapons for the Rangers that Pittsburgh will be able to handle. And unfortunately, I guess not really unfortunately, but I just don't agree. I think the Rangers will just be stronger. They might, Pittsburgh, could take advantage of that fact on 5-on-5. Of their 5-on-5 play, but if the Rangers get their calls and Shesterkin plays like he did in the regular season, this series is a no-brainer for me.
Very interesting point. I don't think you're wrong necessarily. I don't know. I genuinely think it's going to be really close, because the most interesting thing to me is that whereas you have some series where the teams are very similar in style, I think in this series it's very like two opposite ends of the spectrum, where you have that high-flying young team against maybe on a little bit older, slower team, but I think they have that playoff experience and have that shutdown ability. So I think it's going to be really interesting. And just from years of watching the playoffs, I know the teams that tend to thrive are those more heavier more shutdown ability teams. So for this reason, again, I'm not going to reveal my prediction, but you could kind of predict there that I honestly think the Penguins have a little bit of an advantage heading into this one.
Okay, so let's say it quick because we still haven't even touched the Western Conference yet. So
Okay, yeah. Well, I was gonna wait for Max to do because I know that's the order we initially agreed on, but whatever. I'll just say mine now. I think the Penguins win this one in six, and I think yes, Shesterkin is that X factor. And at the beginning of the series, before Jari comes back, I do think the Rangers are gonna be able to have a little bit of a field day and maybe get off to a hot start in this series. But Jari, yes, last year he was an absolute train wreck in that Islanders series. But this season, he had a very good season, and he's a good enough goaltender that I could see him coming through in the playoffs. And as soon as he's back, I think that shutdown ability of the Penguins will thrive. And in a 6-game series, I could see it honestly going 7, but in my bracket, I put down game 6. And that was my gut feeling, so I'm going to continue going with that. I do think the Penguins are going to be able to hold them off, shut them down, slow them down, and then I think they're going to be able to win this one and take it home.
All right.
Max, say quick.
Okay, you gotta. There's about a bunch of time spending on this, but on this series, and
Sorry, go ahead.
very much, but I don't really care. It's fine. In my opinion, I think this series is a combination of both Atlantic series, with that Pittsburgh kind of being like Washington, kind of being the underdog type team, and like New York kind of being like Toronto and Tampa. In my opinion, I feel like New York can win in any other game, but if it goes to 7, Pittsburgh would win. But I have a feeling that the Rangers are going to win in 6. Yes, Pittsburgh is a bit older, but they have the veterancy, they have the playoff experience, they have these new guys, like you said, Raquel, obviously not doing that much, but it is still a good addition. And yeah, with their defensemen not being the best, but I still think they can put up a fight, pull their punches, but I think the Rangers are going to win in 6, and yes, Shesterkin is super good, so good right now, and might win the Vezina, and yeah, I think Shesterkin would be a big X factor, helping them come on top and being Penguins.
Okay, yeah, so,
Definitely.
So now we gotta be a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But well, I guess I'm not gonna talk about this one for too much. I'll give it less than half a minute. Colorado, Nashville. Nashville have some great fans. I mean, when they play at home, they're a very hard team to play against. I mean, we saw that last year when they're in the series against Carolina. But I think this year the Avalanche are just too damn good. I think Colorado's just got too much skill. They might have some. Landeskog, I'm not sure what his situation is, but I think the Avalanche, even if they aren't completely healthy, are just the clear winners here. I think Nashville steals a game on home ice, but that's about it. I think Colorado in 5.
Yeah, I'm completely with you there. And I guess I'll say my prediction now as well. I think it's pretty much going to be a no-brainer. Colorado, I'd be absolutely shocked if they don't come away and win the series. With Saros there, like Nashville's goaltender, I think it would have been close. However, the fact that he's going into the playoffs injured now and they're going to have to rely on, Big Save Dave, an absolute Leafs legend, or like Connor Ingram in net, I just don't see how they'll find a way to shut down the high-flying offense that the Colorado Avalanche have. I don't hate the way that Nashville's built. I do think they have somewhat of a bright future ahead. I like a lot of their young pieces. Tanner Jeannot being, I guess, the headliner of that. But still, I just don't see them having the skill to win this one. And I do agree with you, they'll maybe steal one game. But even though I don't absolutely love Darcy Kemper net, he's a heck of a lot better than the Nashville goalies right now. And for that reason, I think they win the series in 5. Colorado's just better in pretty much all areas on the ice, better offensively, defensively, and in net. And that's the reason I have them winning this series.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so you guys basically said what I was gonna say, 'cause it's kind of obvious. Yeah, like you said, it's a no-brainer. I think, yeah, Colorado's gonna win way better. I think just all around, and yeah, with UC Saros not playing, that's huge for Colorado. I feel like maybe like if there was like a tiny bit of a chance that Nashville could have brought it to 7, because UC saw like with UC Saros, because of how good he is, how good he's been this season. I don't know if you guys agree with me this, but I feel like UC Saros is better than Darcy Kemper. But even though the Avalanche have way better forward defense and goalies, kind of goalies, but yeah, even though they have like a way better roster, I feel like it's a bit of a no-brainer, and I'm kind of interested to see this Makar versus Yossi battle. That's gonna be a big factor, but yeah, I don't see Nashville doing much. Yeah, I'm just gonna say it now. Yeah, I have Colorado in 5. Yeah, I see Nashville maybe stealing a game, but at most, yeah, I think Colorado in 5.
Yeah,
That's what
no,
I said before we move on, or
sorry,
before
go
we
on,
move
go
on to
on.
the next team. I'm surprised no one had a sweep. I mean, I don't really like handing out sweeps. I usually like to think any team could beat any team on any particular night. So I usually like to give the benefit of the doubt that, oh, Nashville could find a way to steal the game. But I'm really shocked that no one had a sweep because this one has sweep written all over it. And I don't have it. Again, I'm one of the people that leans on the side of, Nashville maybe has what it takes to steal a game because I have liked the way they've played this year. But if there's ever going to be a sweep in these playoffs, this one looks like it might be the one.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I agree with all you guys said. Yossi McCarr, that's gonna be a great matchup, and Soros, obviously, that's gonna be tough for Nashville. That's a tough pill to swallow. I mean, Dave Riddick, he was
Dave.
he was something on the Leafs, something that wasn't so great, but he was something.
We won't
but
talk about it. We won't talk.
we didn't talk about it. I think, and then moving on, I think this is the 50-50 series. 50% Colorado. I mean, 50% Minnesota. 50% St. Louis. I think I'm going. I don't know what I'm curious to see what you guys go with. Probably out of any series, I'm curious, but I'm gonna go with Minnesota here. I think the Wild are just a better hockey team. They got so much better this year. It's crazy. No one expected them to make the playoffs really last year, but they took that step. They were the 3 seed. They were so close to beating Vegas last year, and I mean I really think not many people had them making the top 4 in that division. But they did, and since then, I think they've proved to us that they are a for real team. They can win playoff series and a playoff series, and they almost did it last year. They've been a mediocre team for a while, but I think after last year and gaining their superstar that they've never really had, I think they can turn that into. I think they can really just jump on the gun right at this spot and be one of the better teams for the NHL for a long time. But this will be interesting for St. Louis as well because O'Reilly and guys like O'Reilly and what's his name and Braden Shen have dropped in skill this year, but there's also been guys like Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas who have picked it up. And seeing the Blues having a bounce back year like that after a horrible ending to their season is good to see. Never really been a Blues fan, but yeah, no. And then I'm pretty sure Ville Husso is St. Louis' starter. So honestly, that's also going to be the goaltending matchup is going to be interesting because Fleury from Minnesota, he's made the playoffs for how many straight years now? It's crazy. I don't know what the record is, but he's been in the playoffs like every year of his career essentially. And compared to Ville Husso, who's playing his first ever playoff game tomorrow. So that's gonna be interesting to see. But like I said, this has got to be the closest series. People are 50-50 on this, but I'm gonna have to go with the Minnesota Wild. I think they're just stronger. They got more jump to their game. They got the better superstar. St. Louis's Kyrou has gotten much better this year. One of the fastest skaters in the league. That was that All-Star game was or All-Star skills competition. We saw a lot of Kyrou and some Kaprizov had some funny, I don't know, whatever. I forgot what it was. But anyways, I think, yeah, no, this will be a matchup of the young guns. But I think the veterans can still play a factor into the series. But I think it'll ultimately end up in the hands of the goaltenders. I think if Husso's a good goalie, he's had a great year, and I think it's his rookie season. I'm not entirely sure, but he's had a great year. And St. Louis has had a fantastic bounce back year, but I just don't think they're good enough. The Wild had such a good offseason addition. They were struggling before the deadline, but they picked up Fleury. They didn't really give up too much for him, and now they're playing a team that can definitely they're playing a good team. So I think the Wilds can beat them. I think they will. It could go 6 or 7, but I'm saying 7.
All right.
Yeah,
So I'll go really quick. I'll just go really quickly, and then I'll let you say yours.
Perfect. Yeah.
I don't really see the confidence in people of St. Louis winning. Yes, they are a better team than last year. Yes, they do have Robert Thomas, and Robert Thomas is a really good player, but I don't see the trend of St. Louis winning. I don't know what people like. Obviously, it is very possible, and it's kind of like a 50-50 chance. But I see Minnesota as a way better team than St. Louis. I have Minnesota in 6. I think just yeah. I don't know why. I don't really want to get too salty here, but I don't really. Some
You'll
people
see.
are. I don't really know, but yeah, the tandems. I think Minnesota's a better tandem. Obviously, you're mentioning about Fleury, the amount of playoff experience he has. Yeah, I don't. I think he's been in it. He's been in the playoffs every year because I believe Pittsburgh's been in the playoffs every year, and and since like the 90s or something like that. And yeah, with Vegas, he made it every year, and now he's with Minnesota. He almost did not make it with Chicago, but yeah, now he's with Minnesota, kind of bouncing back, but obviously not as good as he was. But yeah, kind of having a bounce back sort of time in Minnesota. Minnesota being as good as they are. Talbot and Fleury, I like that tandem. Talbot, I'm pretty sure, has some playoff experience, and the Wild, most of the players in the Wild have playoff experience from last year and what happened last year. And yeah, yeah, they Wild took Vegas to 7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was a very close series, way closer than I thought that was gonna be. Yeah, Wild, uh, the Wild are an underdog team, but I feel like this year, I feel like this year the Wild are gonna beat St. Louis, and I don't really see St. Louis beating them. I don't really see them having that really big chance of beating Minnesota.
Well, I will actually disagree with you there. I think, first of all, the series is going to be very, very close. I think both teams are going into the playoffs incredibly hot. Right now, just looking at their last 10 record, Minnesota's 8-1-1 in their last 10. St. Louis is 7-2-1. So both teams have been very hot heading into the playoffs, heading into the final stretch. And I think both teams are very evenly matched and they have varying strengths. I think both teams are very strong in different departments. But ultimately, I'm actually leaning towards in a Game 7 series. I think the St. Louis Blues. I'm one of those people that Max disagrees with. I think the St. Louis Blues find a way to win this series. The one thing I will say, however, the fact that they acquired Marc-Andre Fleury at the deadline, he is that X factor in this series. If it has to come down to goaltending, which sometimes it does, then I do think the Minnesota Wild will win in this series. But I think looking at the rosters and comparing the players that each of these teams have, with Minnesota, I see more of a top heavy team. With the Blues, I see depth all throughout their roster. And yes, maybe they don't have a star as good as Kirill Kaprizov, but they also have depth all throughout their lineup. Their third line, they have Jordan Kyrou. He's been so good, and he's only a third liner on their team. And it shows you that they have so many different scoring options all throughout their lineup. And they're also, in my opinion, they're a better defensive team. They're a better shutdown team. And as well, they have cup experience because they won a cup not too long ago. And for this reason, I do think that the St. Louis Blues are going to prevail in this series. The Wild, again, they have the goaltending and they have that individual superstar. But as much as goaltending is very important in the playoffs, one superstar is usually not enough to carry your team. The biggest example of that is the Edmonton Oilers, which we'll get to soon, where McDavid and Draisaitl, they're individual superstars, but the depth around them hasn't been good enough. And I do think it's a very similar case with the Minnesota Wild, where yes, they do have good players around them. They have guys like Matt Zuccarello, Ryan Hartman. But aside from their one superstar, I don't see a ton of depth throughout their lineup. And I think the Blues are a better and a more deeper team, a more well-balanced team, having the playoff experience, having the defensive ability, the shutdown ability. I do think they're going to be able to shut down Kaprizov. I do think they're going to be able to get pucks past Marc-Andre Fleury. And I think in a Game 7 series, the Blues are going to find their way prevailing in the series.
Okay. So, yeah, no, I mean, like I said, that could go both ways, but, yeah, no, I think Minnesota is just a stronger team throughout, but I could definitely see St. Louis winning that. So, moving on here, this is another really...
don't.
But yeah, let's start up a
Let's
new
just
Zoom.
stop. Let's just stop it. And
Right. Okay, guys, sorry about that one. We're going to have to make things quicker here. This Calgary series, I think this is a pretty simple one. Calgary's had such a great bounce back year, especially Johnny Gaudreau. And Dallas, also, I think is a team that maybe probably people expected to be around the same spot here, but this is a little rematch from 2020. See if Calgary can can get the revenge. And also, I think Dallas, the goaltending is sketchy. They don't have Holtby. They don't have Kudobin or Bishop. They have completely different goaltending pairing with Wedgwood and Andre. I'm not sure who they're starting or what,
I
but
believe it'll be Ottinger, but I'll
okay, so
double check
yeah,
that.
it's Andre there, but that'll be sketchy. Obviously, Calgary's got their goalie. He's been one of the better goalies in the NHL this year. Obviously, a nice bounce back year for Jacob Markstrom. But yeah, no, not much to say about this. Calgary in 5, in my opinion. I think Dallas could take a game, but I think the Flames are too good this year. Their forward group is great. Their defense, they have some nice. Their defense has stepped it up, and obviously Markstrom has been fantastic for Calgary.
Yeah. So I'll just say my series really quickly. I'm gonna have to fully agree with you there, Don. I think Calgary in 5 as well. I don't feel like sweeping is kind of rare, depending on like this could be a time where there is a sweep, but I don't feel like it's possible. Dallas did go to the Cup Finals 2 years ago, and most of their roster is the same as now. But yeah, I just don't think Dallas has the capability to face up against arguably one of the best teams in the league. And the bounce back the Calgary Flames have had since the winter break has been absolutely nuts. And I don't think Calgary can match up. I mean, not Calgary. I don't think Dallas can match up and get too much. But yeah, I think they could steal a game, maybe an OT or something. But yeah, I think yeah, at the end of the day, I think Calgary's gonna come on top. Yeah, beat them in 5.
What I will say is I think this series is going to be a lot closer than some people think, actually. I think Dallas plays a very defensive-heavy style of play, and listen, 2 years ago, they defensed their way to the Stanley Cup Finals, and I think they're a very good shutdown defensive team, and for this reason, I think they're capable of taking maybe 2 games from the Flames, but at the end of the day, as much as I have them winning one more game than maybe you guys predict, and I do think it's going to be close, I'm giving Dallas their respect. I do think the fact that they have a rookie goalie in net and other factors such as that, and just looking at the fact that the Calgary Flames are a much better team than the Dallas Stars, I do think ultimately the Flames move on and win it in Game 6. Again, I like Dallas. I think they're a good team. I'm giving them their respect, and I'm acknowledging that their style of play does lend itself very well to playoff hockey. But at the end of the day, what the Flames have that the Stars don't is they have immense scoring ability and as well the ability to defend and get under players' skin. They're a more well-rounded team, and more importantly, they have the better goalie. They have Markstrom in net, and all of those factors I think will lend themselves to a win over the Dallas Stars. But again, Dallas upset the Flames in their first-round series back in 2020 and rode that high all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. So anything can happen in the playoffs. My prediction, though, is still I'm going with the Calgary Flames, moving on and winning it in Game 6.
Okay.
All right.
So yeah, no, I agree with 6. I mean, it could happen, but Dallas, like you said, they're a team. I mean, they basically have the same core as their Stanley Cup winning team, so it's definitely possible for them to contend Calgary.
Stanley
But
Cup
yeah.
Finals team.
Oh, finals, sorry. Yeah. But yeah, no, the Flames are just have been fantastic this year, and yeah, no, Max, did I hear you say something or no?
No, just waiting for the next series.
Oh,
yeah,
so,
let's cook it up.
So Edmonton, LA. I'm very happy to see the Kings back in the playoffs after a little while. And I think this series, I think you could go. I mean, some people could say the Kings, but I think this is mainly Edmonton. I got Edmonton in 6. I got a couple reasons why it's a little longer than maybe some people would expect. First of all, I just want to say a few things. McDavid, I wonder if he's going to get a call this year. And I think none of these teams neither of these teams deserve to win a round. I think compared to the Eastern Conference, all those teams could beat either Edmonton or LA in a first round series. But unfortunately, that's just obviously not the way it works. But I don't think the Oilers or the Kings are a second round team. But someone has to make it to the second round. Mike Smith has been fantastic recently. And speaking about LA's goalies, I think Jonathan Quick will be the reason this series goes to 6. I think the Kings are without Doughty, and they're obviously they don't even have a great forward group, but they got a good shutdown. I mean, Danault's gonna be we'll see how Danault factor. I mean, we're gonna see Danault versus Hyman again. That'll be fun. I mean, a little rematch for Himes maybe. Hopefully he wins a round for the first time in his career. But yeah, no, I think the main piece will be goaltending, and the Kings are gonna have to rely heavily on Jonathan Quick to save the day for them because their blue line is not sharp whatsoever, and I think just the Oilers are. I think the Oilers will take this one home. I've probably been going on for too long, but yeah, no, I think Quick will be the reason this series goes to 6. But I think the Oilers are just a better team overall. But wouldn't be surprised if the Kings win in 7.
All right, so I'm going to have to disagree with you here, Dylan. This is my hot take of the first round. I have the LA Kings in 7.
Really?
Yeah, I do. Like you said, Jonathan Quick will be a big factor. They obviously they have some playoff experience. Obviously, playoff experience isn't really like as great as we're making it seem. But I still do think they have the capability. And Connor McDavid, how many series has he won in his whole entire career? 1 series. I don't think that the Edmonton Oilers are. Well, yeah, okay, I'm getting off track here. I think the Kings are just a way. Fuck. I'm getting way off track here. I'm trying to think of something. This is kind of going with my gut here. I don't know. I know going with your gut isn't the best option, but I have a feeling that the Kings could come on top, and they have Adrian Kempe, who has been outstanding this year. Jonathan Quick also been outstanding this year. Kopitar hasn't been as good, but yeah, they have Deneau. Deneau went to Stanley Cup Finals last year. I think they have the capacity and the capacity. I think they have the capability to defeat the Edmonton Oilers, and yeah, I think they're gonna beat them in 7.
What I will say is my initial reaction when I first made my bracket, I had the same thing as that. I had initially LA Kings winning in 7, and the reason for this is I really dislike the way that the Edmonton Oilers are built. I don't think they're built well at all. They obviously have their 2 superstars, McDavid and Draisaitl, but I don't think Ken Holland did a good job of building good pieces around them. I don't think they have a lot of depth. I don't think they're strong defensively. I don't think they're good in net. And initially, my initial reaction was that the LA Kings would actually upset them and beat them in a Game 7 series. However, looking more into it, looking at the fact that Drew Doughty isn't playing in this series, the best defenseman on the LA Kings, and looking at the fact that right now their top 2 defensemen are Alexander Edler and Troy Stetcher, I just don't see those guys being able to shut down that, at the very least, the star power that the Edmonton Oilers have. I hate that they're moving on in the playoffs because the way that they're built, I don't think they should be a team moving deep in the playoffs, like Dylan said. But Edmonton got a little bit, in my opinion, gifted with a young, upcoming LA Kings team that has a little bit of inexperience. Obviously, they have their guys that have been there for a long time and have won their cups, but most of their core is pretty young pieces. And in general, I just think the Oilers will be able to come away and win the series in 6. I wouldn't be shocked, though, if LA upsets them. And the reason for this is I think a big X factor is Philip Deneau, who, of course, last season in round 1 of the playoffs, he was able to shut down Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews. If he could work his magic again, and if he could teach a little thing to Kopitar, and if him and Kopitar, the top 2 centermen, could really shut down those 2 superstars, then we could have a series on our hands, and it could go maybe longer than expected. But I just think Edmonton, they have the star power and are a better team than the LA Kings. And for this reason, they're going to move on to round 2 where they're going to get absolutely squashed because they are not a good team.
I just want to point something out really quickly. I'm not going to lie, I think Ken Holland's the worst. I think it's a tie between Jim Benning and Ken Holland being the worst GMs in the NHL. The Edmonton Oilers could have gotten Marc-Andre Fleury while he was... But when he won the Vezina, yeah, he won the Vezina last year. When he won the Vezina and they chose Duncan Keith over him, I don't think Ken Holland's idea of building a Stanley Cup winning team is not the right way, like at all, in my opinion. And I'm pretty sure some other people agree with that. But yeah, like they literally could have gotten Marc-Andre Fleury for absolutely nothing, and they literally wasted a 3rd round pick and a okay defenseman on Duncan Keith. He's worse less this year.
A defenseman better than Duncan Keith for sure, though.
Yeah, he's worse this year than last year. He's regressing. He's not getting better. He has a horrible contract. I just wanted to point this out really quickly. I don't believe that Ken Holland will get the Edmonton Oilers Stanley Cup until he's out of there. I don't
I
think
agree.
the Oilers are
I,
gonna
I
do
don't I don't think they're built well at all, and I think the GM is absolutely at fault for this. However, I do think they got a little bit gifted that the fact that they're in the Pacific Division, in my opinion, clearly the worst division in hockey. They're getting a pretty fortunate matchup for them. An injured LA Kings team that, to begin with, was a little bit young and inexperienced. Obviously, they have their guys who have been there for a while, but a lot of their core is young and inexperienced. And I do think ultimately the Oilers are going to be able to win around, but I don't see them going deep at all because I very much have a problem with the way they're built. I think they're the if you want to look at a prototype of what not to do in building a team, they are the example. They got two superstars and they're like, okay, my job here is done, and got nothing else surrounding them. I have a big problem with that, but ultimately I do think they're going to find a way to win this one series where they have the Flames waiting for them, and I think you could probably assume how I think that one's going to go.
Yeah, and Jared, you took the. Oh, sorry, Max, you go ahead.
I agree with most of what you said there. Besides what happened with the Oilers winning, but yeah, I just think Ken Holland has no idea of what he is doing, and the Oilers are not going to do much with him as GM. Don't you go?
Yeah, Jared, you took the words right out of my mouth. Like, they literally any other team in the playoffs they would lose to in the first round. But they got so lucky playing a team that's worse than them in the Kings, and so they're compared to any of the teams in the Eastern Conference who deserve to win a playoff series. They aren't. Four of those teams aren't, and either Edmonton or LA will, which is just so unfair. But it's just the way it works, and we're gonna have to hope Gary Bettman changes it. But I don't think he's gonna do a 1-3-16. But that would be pretty sick if he does. But anyways, moving on. I think what we could do is we'll just say the rest of our brackets, and then we'll just discuss about it after, and then we'll do Max's full bracket, and then we'll discuss about it, and then Jared's, and that'll be it.
Perfect. Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right, perfect. So, Florida Toronto is the first series I have, the Atlantic Division Finals. I think after the first three after the 3-game series in the regular season, I think we after watching it and obviously studying these games a little bit or a lot of it, but I think this is the perfect match. I mean, not perfect matchup, but I think the Panthers will take the cake in this battle. Like we talked about in the first round matchup, I think the Panthers could win it. The Panthers are a better team from coming from behind, and Toronto's a team that gives up, takes leads, and then lets up. So Florida's the perfect team to have that. And as a matter of fact, Toronto blew a 4-goal lead and a 2-goal lead in two of their in their games against Florida this year. In two of their games against Florida this year. So if that pattern continues, then it's just gonna be. I think we'll know the way this series goes. I think the Leafs. Once again, I think if the Leafs take it to 5 or 6 and they have a series lead, there's a shot I think they could win. But I think Florida's too good. If both teams have gone over this hump, and maybe they'll be able to succeed for the next few years or for the next little while. But I think Florida's just a better team, and out of the two, I would just see Florida winning more. I hate to say it, but the Panthers are just better built than Toronto. I mean, after I've talked about just now, and I've said it before. Once they've gone over that hump, who knows? It could be smooth sailing from here on out. I mean, they're the President's Trophy winners, so I mean, the sky's the limit for the Panthers, really. Moving on, the Metro Division Finals with the Hurricanes and the Rangers. I'm sure. I think Freddie will be back, so I think this will be closer. I think this will be closer than without Freddie, obviously, but I think Shesterkin will be the key factor in this series. This is the rematch from the play-in tournament or the play-in round from 2020, and I think the Rangers. I mean, this series, it could really go any way. The Hurricanes won the season series 3-1, so there's that. But I think I think the Rangers, I just don't know. I just, there's something about them this year that I think when they played Pittsburgh, they had to be flashy. Or I guess it's a different type of. Carolina and Pittsburgh are two different teams, so it'll be a different matchup for New York. But I think they will pull through. That's a pretty hot take. The Rangers and the Panthers in the conference finals for me. So I got the Rangers in 7. And then moving over to the Western Conference. This is the best series in the entire Western Conference, side of the bracket, in my opinion. Between the Avalanche and the Wild. I will just whoever Colorado plays, I think will just be the best series. But I think the Wild, they won their last game of the year was against Colorado, and they won it. Obviously, there was a lot of
there's a lot
scratch
of
players, but
rested,
still, I think this series is Minnesota's series. I think Colorado's been stuck in the second round. They've been able to easily win the first round. No hesitation. They've been able to do that for many years now. But I think they've just had horrible luck. And last year they just crumbled. And this year I think it'll happen again. I'm not sure if Darcy Kemper will have enough in him to take it to beat his former team, the Wild. And I think Colorado, I mean, they struggled at the end of the year, and the Wild were on a tear. So I think the Wild actually pull through from this. Kind of a weird, just a side addition. There was a 1-for-1 trade. Tyson Jost for what's his name, Nico Sturm, during the regular season. So that could, I don't know, just something funny. And then I think the X factor in this series is bad luck. I think Minnesota wins this series because of Colorado's bad luck and like a fluke or like an unexpected goal. I think that's the way the Avalanche that's happened the last few years. That happened in when they played Dallas. Kiviranta just scored a hat trick out of nowhere in his first game and then last year I kind of forget what happened last year really, and then San Jose, they were so close to beating the Sharks. Like I think the Avalanche just have horrible luck, and I think the reason they lose will because of a fluke. And then our Western Conference, our Pacific Division finals. You said it, I said it, Max said it. It's gonna be Calgary. I say Calgary in 5. Not much about it. I think Smith will have a good series, but Calgary's offense is just so stacked. It's crazy, and I think we'll be honest here. I think we all thought Vegas would be in this series by now, but obviously look what happened to them. So obviously we love seeing the Golden Knights missing the playoffs, but yeah, no, seeing the Flames or the Oilers in this spot. I think I know a lot of people could have Edmonton playing through, but yeah, like you said, Jared, they just got lucky with their first round matchup, and they're not a well built team, and I just don't think they have enough in them to beat Calgary, who's so balanced throughout their roster, and I think the Flames will take it in 5. So I got my conference finals here: Florida and New York, and Minnesota and Calgary. So between Florida and New York, I think also a side one, Frank Vatrano was traded from from Florida to New York, and he's had a great year. He's been fantastic for the New York Rangers since he joined them. And I think Florida's offense versus Igor Shesterkin will be so entertaining to watch. Igor's gonna have his work cut out for him for sure. But the Panthers are really gonna have to rely on their goaltending to keep up with Shesterkin. If they can do that, if Bobrovsky can step up to the plate like he supposedly did in the first 2 rounds, I think the Panthers can pull through. Like I said, they've been able to. Like that big hump thing that I keep referring to. They've gone past that first hump against Washington. If they can, I guess Jared disagrees, but if they can, they will. I think they can beat any team in the NHL. Really, they really showed that last year as well. I'm not even sure. I don't think they lost. I think they won a series or won a game against every single team in the NHL this year. So Obviously, they can beat any team. The President's Trophy winners. I know there's a curse for that for the President winner, but I think we will see the Panthers in the finals. I think it's the first time really that I think the best team in the conference makes it to the finals. You could argue that maybe Tampa was the best team in 2020 and they made the finals, or something else like that. But I think the Panthers are just too good to miss this year. Definitely a potential, like something crazy happening with Florida. Like you had it with Washington. Maybe they lose to Tampa or Toronto in the second round. But I think they're just a very just a powerful team, and they can. I mean, I think they're gonna rock New York. Two young teams, but they got some veterans, and I think this will be a fast-paced, high-energy series with great goaltending, and I think like I've said before many times for basically every series, this will be like the most entertaining playoffs in in a while, maybe forever. I mean, in all time. I mean, it's just crazy how entertaining these games are. You could put on Buffalo and Anaheim, and I mean, we saw what happened with Zegers. Like, it's just so. It's just, I don't know. It's crazy how the NHL is now. And sorry guys, 2 more series to go, and then I'll let you guys talk. Minnesota versus Calgary is going to be a very even series, and it will be hard for the Wilds to beat Markstrom. But I think, I don't know why, but I really am strong on the Wild this year, and I think Kirill Kaprizov will continue to tear up the Western Conference. I think the Flames will have a better top line, and I think they'll be able to contribute. But I'm thinking more offensively minded when I'm going into my series. I know Jared's thinking all over, like all sides of the puck, or all sides of the rink, but I think this will be it's going to be very hard to contend against these teams' offense. I think offense has never been better in the NHL. I mean, if you look at the skill throughout, like I just said, I mean, I think the offense is just too good now, and I mean, most defensemen are offensive defensemen at this point, really. I think the offense will lead the way in this series, as well as many others, and I think the Wild are just stronger on the back end as well. Like, they got Dumba, they got Brodin. Brodin's a good defenseman. Spurgeon, Goligoski, like, they got a really nice defensive core, and I think the Flames just don't have enough to beat one of the most balanced teams in the entire NHL. I'm saying Wild in 6. So, in my Stanley Cup Finals, I'm very strong on this, but I know both of these teams are going to get eliminated in the first round. Minnesota and Florida. This
actually both of them are first round exits for me. So.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, anything could happen in this playoffs. Like, yeah, we've talked about it, but anything could happen. I'm gonna try to finish this up quick. Sorry, boys. But I think Barkov and Huberdeau will just keep on being deadly, as well as Kaprizov. But I think what this goes up to is once again the goaltending. Marc-Andre Fleury has been on this position before. I don't think anybody on the Panthers have ever been in the finals. And the last time, Verhaeghe, that's right. The last time the Panthers advanced in the playoffs, they were in this same spot. They were in the Stanley Cup Finals against Colorado. And I think if Minnesota does make the finals, win or loss, hot take, Kaprizov wins the Conn Smythe. I think he'll just have the best. I think he's just a player that'll adapt to the playoffs really well. And,
losing teams, players.
I think you
can
can still win.
I think in the rules they're allowed to, but it never happens. Like, you give it to a player on the team that won it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very low. I mean, it's very not. I mean, it's not that common, but I think if the Wild do win, Kaprizov will get the Conn Smythe. I think this is Florida's. I think Florida, with all the disappointment they've had over the last few years, I think with the year this year will just make it up for all of it. Maybe they won't, like Jared thinks, but maybe they will. I hate to have a 1 seed like this in the finals, but sometimes just these teams are too good, you know. And I think this is probably my hot take, my biggest or my most hot take. I think whoever wins whoever wins the Central Division will win the Stanley Cup. So whether actually not really saying this, but between Minnesota or Colorado, one of those two teams will win the Stanley Cup. In my personal opinion, whoever wins that series. But yeah, no. After all of that, I'm done talking. I'm excited for you guys to talk. The Minnesota Wild are what your Stanley Cup champions after years of mediocrity. I think they will finally break through. We're not going to talk about that voice crack. And I think just the Wild are I'm just very strong in Minnesota this year. I don't know what it is, but they're very balanced. Fiala, Zuccarello, Kaprizov, Eriksson, like their forward group. Boldy's had a great year. They got a really nice team. But even if they don't win, I think they have the good thing about them is they have years to improve, and that's what and they're going to be one of the better teams in the NHL for the next few years, finally stepping out of the mediocrity. So I'm done talking. You guys, if you guys have any comments, let me know, and I guess we'll move on to Max after the discussion.
I mean, it's very interesting. Like having Minnesota as the Stanley Cup champions is not one that I personally have seen quite a bit. However, I mean, anything can happen, and I don't hate their team. I would not be mad at all. I mean, Kaprizov is such an exciting player to watch. If he in his second year in the NHL could lead his team to the Stanley Cup, that just shows how special of a talent he is. And listen, anything is possible once you get to the playoffs. It's the craziest playoffs in all of sports for a reason. I mean, literally anything could happen. But the one thing I'm a little bit disagreeing with you on quite a few of your picks is I think you're valuing the offensive ability of a team in the regular season very highly. And listen, maybe this is the year that offense translates highly into the playoffs. But as we know, year after year, it's shown that the playoffs kind of tighten up a little bit. And that's why, personally, I'm not as high on teams like the Panthers and the Rangers. I think more a defense-heavy team will ultimately be able to shut them down and take them down, because just that's what tends to happen in the playoffs. But, hey, I know no more than you do heading into the playoffs. Exactly. Like, anything can happen, and
we'll know in a few weeks, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I'm more than happy to revisit it. I mean, anything can happen. I just personally, I know the trend in the teams that tend to go far in the playoffs. It's teams like Dallas that very heavily highlight their defense as opposed to their offensive ability, and those are more so the teams that I see winning it. But hey, you really never know.
All right, Max, go ahead.
Yeah. All right. I'll try and make this a bit quicker so Jared can have his time. But first, starting off with Florida against Tampa, I feel like Florida. Disagreeing with Dylan a lot here. I feel like Florida, yes, they are an amazing team. They won the President's Trophy, most points in the out of any team in the league. I don't think they are capable of being the Tampa Bay Lightning, as we've seen last year. Florida was the 1, and I think Tampa was the 4, I believe.
Tampa was 3, and Florida was 2.
Yeah.
Carolina was 1, and Nashville was 4.
Yes, you saw, like, one player can make a big difference, like Kucherov, and I think it was just Kucherov that came back, and maybe Stamkos as well.
No, Stamkos, yeah. I mean, Kucherov, yeah.
Yes, Kucherov came back. He was a whole different story, and I only think Florida's gonna take 1. I think it's gonna be Tampa in 5. I don't know if Florida doesn't have that much playoff experience. I have them barely making it out of alive against the Washington Capitals. There's 10 minutes left in the Zoom, so I'll just make this a quick one. And yeah, I don't think they can. They barely made it. They barely made it out alive against the Caps. And I think Tampa is gonna take an easy series home in 5. All right, for my next one, the Hurricanes versus the New York Rangers. I have the Carolina Hurricanes winning in 6. Dylan, you have some compelling points about the Rangers winning, but yeah, they're not like they are a very good offensive and defensive team, and they do have very good goalies as well. but I don't think they're capable of beating the Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes, yes, they're amazing offensively. They also have a good defense. Tony DeAngelo, bounce back year for him. Obviously, he's not the greatest guy, but yes, bounce back year for him. Slavin, not doing as good, but he's still a good, pretty decent defenseman. And I think that the Hurricanes will come on top and beat the Rangers in six. And then for the Avalanche versus Wild, I'm going to agree with Dylan here. He kind of spoke the words out of my mouth with most that I'm going to say here. But yeah, I have the Minnesota Wild winning in seven. The Wild are such an outstanding team as well as the Avalanche. But the Avalanche have been in a slump in the second round, and I don't think this is the year they will come out of it. I think the Minnesota Wild are going to come on top. You've been saying Kirill Kaprizov is such an amazing player, and their defense is really outstanding as well. They have Spurgeon, they have Brodin, they have what's his name, Dumba, they have Goligoski, not horrible either. They have such a good D roster, and yes, they have their goalie tandem, Marco J. Fleury and Cam Talbot, both amazing goalies, both kind of having bounce back years. And well, for Fleury, it's only been like a bounce back month, but yeah, both having had a bounce back. Like as of right now, they're both bouncing back, and I think Minnesota can come on top. Colorado, yes, an outstanding team, probably one of the best, arguably the best team in the league, even though Florida got the President's Trophy. I still think that Minnesota will come on top, and yeah. All right, so for my next one, I feel like it's a no-brainer as well. I have the Flames and Kings. I have Calgary in five. I feel like the Kings can take a game away from the Flames. But the Flames have been so good this year after the winter break. Their first line, I don't think, maybe the best first line in the league. Probably, definitely top three. Definitely top three. Maybe number one. Most likely number two. But I think that's such a good line, and not even just them. Like their defense has bounced back. Like what's his name? I think it's Rasmus Anderson. He's
Yeah.
having he's having a good season. Chris Tanev also having a good season. What's his name? Who's their starting left D again? I forget his name.
Hanifin?
Yeah, Hannafin. Yeah, Hannafin's doing amazing. Well, not amazing, but Hannafin's doing better this year than last year. Obviously, last year was a bit different, but yeah, Hannafin's doing better than last year. Their defense, obviously isn't their bright side compared to their forwards. Picked up Toffoli and what's his name from Seattle, and yeah, they picked up some good players. Jacob Markstrom playing so good this year. Dan Vladar being surprising as well, not having the worst season, not having the worst, but not having the best season either. He's doing quite decent. And yeah, that's it for my round two, and now I'm on to the conference finals, where it is the Tampa Bay Lightning versus the Carolina Hurricanes. Interesting matchup. Could have happened in the first round, but I have them in the third round. I have a bit of an interesting one. I have the Carolina Hurricanes, but I have them taking it to. I have Tampa taking it to seven. I'm not like this is more of a. It's a different one. I think Tampa is such an outstanding team, and Carolina both capable of winning the Stanley Cup for sure. But yeah, I think Carolina is going to come on top. They have a really good team. Tampa does have more experience, but I don't know. I think Carolina's playing better than Tampa this season. Obviously, regular season is like so different from playoffs, but I think them being like quite a bit better than the Tampa Bay Lightning this season, and them and Antti Ranta and Freddie Anderson most likely being back if it's the conference finals. I feel like they can come on top and beat Tampa Bay in seven. And then for my conference finals in the West, same as Dylan, I have a swap. I have it swapped, and I have it Calgary in six. Yes, Minnesota is an outstanding team, like I've been saying a lot. I don't think they can beat Calgary. Calgary's just been way too good, proving literally every single person that watches the NHL and every single person playing this season wrong. Coming out of last year being not good at all. I think they were sixth in the North, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think so.
Fifth or sixth, yeah.
Yes, I think sixth, but might have been fifth. And yeah, coming out of the North, not like expected. I think they were expected to make the playoffs. maybe, and they didn't. And I think about having this bounce back season is crazy, and them being such a good team and their roster being so good, I think they can beat Minnesota. And then for my conference finals, I have Pacific one versus Metro one. Obviously not as most likely, but I have both of them in the finals. Calgary versus Carolina. I have. I was debating so much here because it's such a good matchup, and they are both so outstanding. They're both so amazing teams. Both have great rosters. Both played great in the regular season. But I'm gonna have to agree with Jared here because I already know he picked the Carolina Hurricanes. But I do have the Calgary Flames taking it to 7. Well, you've kind of already said it before, but it's whatever. We'll see what happens. Maybe you changed it. But yeah, I have the Hurricanes in 7. I think Calgary has the capability to take it to 7. Both teams playing so good this year. I've been mentioning how good they were many times by now, but I just think how Carolina has been playing this year, basically one of the being arguably one of the best teams in the league. A bunch of teams are, but yeah, they are arguably one of the best teams in the league, playing outstanding with their roster, having what's his name, Sebastian Aho having an amazing season, Freddie Anderson having an amazing season, and so many other players on their team. Like I said, Tony D'Angelo bounce back here. I think they'll come on top, and I think they'll beat Calgary in 7. That's my Stanley Cup Finals.
Perfect.
Nice.
I like it a lot, to be honest. I like a lot of those picks. Obviously, I'm not going to reveal who my cup winner is, but I think we have pretty similar tastes. Is all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And yeah, I like it. All right. So Jared, you'll go after this quick break.
Through my playoffs, and for starters, again in the first round, I had that big upset, having Washington taken down the Florida Panthers in Game 7. Now they're meeting up with the winner of the other 7-game series, Toronto Maple Leafs versus Tampa Bay Lightning. I had Tampa Bay winning that one. And now in this clash, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning ultimately taking down the Washington Capitals in probably Game 5. I think Washington is good enough to take a game. And back in the days where it was Washington was fighting for their first Stanley Cup, they met the Tampa Bay Lightning a lot of times in very big Eastern Conference Finals. These series often went to Game 7, Game 6. They were very close, intense series. But now today, after Tampa's developed this Stanley Cup experience, winning the last 2 Stanley Cups, now meeting up against the Washington Capitals, I just think Tampa's better. They're a lot better offensively. They have a lot more offensive star power. And most importantly, the biggest factor that gives them the edge is on one end, you have either Samsonov or Vanacek. On the other end, you have Andrei Vasilevskiy. And I think Vasilevskiy's just way better than anything that the Capitals have to offer. And yes, they have unbelievable scorers, but I don't think anyone that's too good to take down Vasilevskiy and the Lightning. For this reason, in a 5-game series, they ultimately, the Lightning, move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, on the other end in the Metro, we have the Carolina Hurricanes facing off against the Pittsburgh Penguins. What I will say here is that I do think this is going to be a very, very, very close series. I think on one end, you have the Hurricanes that are a lot younger of a team. On the other end, similar to why I had the Penguins leaning out and winning against the Rangers, is the Penguins have a lot more experience. And the Penguins are a tough, a very good defensive and shutdown ability team that has a whole lot of veteran experience. But they are a little bit slow, and for that reason, I have the speed of the youthful Carolina Hurricanes prevailing in a 7-game series. So, I mean, for my bet, it'll probably get me shivering a little bit watching that game. It'll have me shivering and shaking in my boots a little bit because I'll be like, is my bet really going to crumble? But no, I really think the youth and the speed and the skill and the defensive ability of the Carolina Hurricanes will prevail, and they'll meet the Tampa Bay Lightning in round 3 in the conference finals. We'll revisit that in a little bit because now we'll move over to talk about the West. For starters, I had, of course, the Colorado Avalanche beating the Nashville Predators. But the one thing different from you guys, I think the depth of the St. Louis Blues will take them above the Minnesota Wild. And for that reason, that is my round 2 matchup, Avalanche versus the Blues. Ultimately, I just think the Avalanche are quite a bit better. I know they've had this drought of not being able to get through the second round for many, many years. Last year, I had a little bit of a suspicion all season long, even after they won the President's Trophy, in the back of my head, I said, no, this team is not playoff ready. They played with a little bit of I found an arrogance last year where they were like, yeah, we're better than everyone and we're going to win. And ultimately, when they faced a heavier defensive team like the Vegas Golden Knights, they crumbled. This year, however, I think they really learned from that experience. And I do think when it's a matchup of Darcy Kemper against Billy Husso or Jordan Binnington, not that necessarily any team has a major edge, but I think the matchup on the Blues in terms of their goaltending isn't good enough that Darcy Kemper really will be a problem. And for this reason, I think the Avalanche's star power will really begin to thrive and they'll be able to take down the St. Louis Blues. Yes, the Blues have a lot of depth. Yes, they have good defensive ability, but so do the Avalanche. And I think finally their skill will be realized. They'll make it to that very tough to get to round 3 for the Avalanche, and we'll revisit them in a little bit. Now we'll move on to the Pacific Division, where it's the Calgary Flames facing off against the Edmonton Oilers. And as I mentioned throughout my matchup of the Oilers versus the Kings, I very much do not have confidence in the way that the Edmonton Oilers are built. I don't think they're deep enough offensively. I don't think they're strong enough defensively. And yes, Mike Smith has been very hot down the stretch, but still, in a second round of the playoffs, I don't think you're looking at regular season success to determine how this goalie will be. He's a goalie that's very hot and cold. And yes, there's on one hand, maybe he continues and goes hot and does something crazy, but I don't think that's going to happen. He's a very up and down goalie, and you have to think in a second round against the very high flying Calgary Flames, you'll see the colder edge of Mike Smith. And for this reason, the Flames are better offensively, way better as a shutdown team. They're a lot more of an irritator team where they get under team's skin, especially they're going to get under McDavid and Draisaitl's skin. And their goaltending in Jacob Markstrom is significantly better. So for this reason, I see maybe it's the most commonly predicted matchup in the Western Conference, Colorado versus Calgary. But I just think in the Central, Colorado's the best team. In the Pacific, Calgary's the best team. I don't see the playoffs changing that much. And for this reason, it'll be close series on both ends. I don't think I said how many games the series is going to go to with the Avalanche one. I think the Avalanche, as much as they swept the Blues last playoffs, I think in 6 games, the Avalanche are going to take down the St. Louis Blues. I do think the Blues' depth is good enough to get them 2 wins. When you're looking on the other end at Calgary versus Edmonton, however, I just think Calgary is significantly better. And for this reason, it maybe goes 5. I could see McDavid and Draisaitl absolutely lighting it up for 1 game to steal a win. But overall, the Flames are so much better, and I just see them overpowering the Stars of the Oilers and moving on to meet the Avalanche in the finals. Now it's time to get to round 3. Ultimately, we have the very experienced back-to-back cup-winning Tampa Bay Lightning facing off against the Carolina Hurricanes. And as much as, yes, the Tampa Bay Lightning have a lot more experience, you have to mention that the Tampa Bay Lightning have played more hockey over the past 2 seasons than any other team in the NHL.
Yep.
Remember, the Stanley Cup in 2020 was awarded in about August. Then the Stanley Cup throughout 2021 was awarded in July. So there was less than a full 2 years in between those cups. It all happened within a year. And I think those legs are going to start catching up with them. They're going to be a little bit tired, a little bit gassed. And I mentioned that with the Carolina Hurricanes, yes, they're amazing defensively, but they're also a youthful team that'll kill you with their speed. And I think maybe it's a surprise. Maybe people don't agree with this. I think the Carolina Hurricanes have what it takes to overpower the high-flying Tampa Bay Lightning. And at this point in the playoffs, most likely Frederik Andersen will be back. And if he can continue his great play that he's shown all year long, I think that they have a chance to take down Andrei Vasilevskiy and the Lightning. Carolina Hurricanes moving on to the Stanley Cup Finals. They're the representative from the East. Now we have the Colorado Avalanche versus the Calgary Flames. This is another one where I'm a little bit conflicted because I do think that the Flames are better defensively. However, with that momentum after finally getting through a second round, I don't see how you could stop and shut down Nathan MacKinnon and the Colorado Avalanche. I think it goes to Game 7. However, ultimately, Kemper's not a great goalie, but I think he could go on stretches, and with the confidence of getting through 2 rounds, I don't see how he would slow down so dramatically to shut down the conference finals. I think Kemper has what it takes to continue playing well and getting the Colorado Avalanche past the Calgary Flames and into the Stanley Cup Final. And now I have my Stanley Cup Final. It's the Carolina Hurricanes on one end, facing off against the Colorado Avalanche on the other end. One team is a lot better on paper. That's the Colorado Avalanche. They're significantly better on paper. However, when looking at who's the better shutdown team, who's the better defensive team, who gives you those intangibles that it takes to win a Stanley Cup, because it's not always the best offensive team that wins. Yeah. It's who has the depth in their lineup, the speed in their lineup, the youth, but also the experience, as well as the goaltending and the defensive ability. I think Anderson's a better goalie than Kemper. I think as much as Cale Makar is a more quick and speedy defenseman, I'm going to looking at the more shutdown defenseman. I think Slavin is more capable of shutting down guys defensively. And for this reason, my Stanley Cup champion for the year 2022 is the Carolina Hurricanes, and I have $25 I put down on that one. If they win the Stanley Cup, $270 going in my bank account, and I'm all in on that one. It's been my pick for pretty much all of the season, and I really think they have what it takes to get it done. I love their roster. I love the superstars, of course, guys like Andrei Svechnikov, Sebastian Aho. But also they have a young guy. They have a rookie in Seth Jarvis who's been amazing. He's right now playing on the first line, so he's really been impactful this season and is stepping up and playing with the big boys. But they have depth all throughout their lineup, great defense, and Freddie Anderson, yes, he's unpredictable in the playoffs because wearing this logo, we know how he's been in the playoffs, but I really think they have good defensive ability, great goaltending when he wants to be good, and some offensive star power that I think has what it takes to shut down the high-flying offense of the Colorado Avalanche. And I'm sticking with it until I'm proven wrong, until they're eliminated. The Carolina Hurricanes, I'm rolling with them as my Cup champion.
You're sticking with them down 3-0 in the first round? I guess so.
I think they have what it takes. I really like the way they're built. And listen, if they're down 3-0, it's absolutely tough. And I think it relies a lot on Antti Raanta stepping up to take them out of that. But I think they have the ability, and they're going to have a tough road. I mean, look at the teams they have to go through in my predictions to get through it. First round, they have to beat the Boston Bruins, who are no slouch whatsoever. Then they have to take down the very experienced Pittsburgh Penguins, taking down the back-to-back champions in the Tampa Bay Lightning, and of course taking down the 2021 President's Trophy winners, but just we know them as one of the best teams in the NHL, the Colorado Avalanche. It's a tough road. I think they can do it, though. I really like the way they're built, and again, I'm rolling with them until I'm proven wrong. I'm going to say that. They're down 3-0, so be it. Let's wait till that final game until they're eliminated, and we'll see what happens. But I think they absolutely have what it takes.
I like it. It's completely possible for you both.
I just like to point out that it's kind of funny that there's still a NHL game going on as of right now, Seattle versus Winnipeg.
Yep.
I like your points. I like your points. I feel like, I like your points, but I don't know. Against Colorado, I feel like there's a different story compared to against Calgary. I feel like Colorado could have the upside, but I feel like I don't know. It's a good prediction.
I think they definitely Colorado. Like just talking about my Stanley Cup Finals, Colorado has the edge offensively. I'm not going to deny that. But again, it takes three components to win a Stanley Cup. That's offense, defense, and goaltending. I think two of the three I give the edge to the Carolina Hurricanes. And most importantly, I think the Hurricanes have more shutdown ability. And yes, Cale Makar, I mean, he's one of the best defensemen in the NHL, but I wouldn't necessarily say he's a shutdown guy. He's a lot more of a puck-moving offensive defenseman.
Well, that's really the thing with Colorado, though. They're very their defensemen are two-way. You got like guys like Josh Manson and Devontae's, and their goaltending isn't great. So I think Anderson will definitely be healthy by then. So I think they can it'll be tough for Colorado to beat Carolina if that's the Cup Finals. And I think I had them the last 2 years. That same Cup Finals, and this year I guess I'm going. I guess you're taking the reins over for me, but yeah, no, I think the Avalanche. I think that'll be probably. I think that'll also be one of the best series finals of all time.
Oh, it would be phenomenal.
It just, I mean, the talent in the NHL is so stacked. But yeah, Max, you were saying?
I just like to point out, you really think that the Hurricanes have better defensemen than Colorado Avalanche? I just want to ask.
I think they're more. I don't think they're better in terms of star power. I think Makar is a better overall defenseman than Slavin, but I mean Slavin's a more shutdown guy than Makar.
Yeah. And Tony
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Tony DeAngelo is very rough.
And yeah, like I think they have the right kind of mix of guys where they have guys that'll get under people's skin. They have guys that will really, shut down and wear down the Stars on the Avalanche. And I think on paper, the Avalanche are a better team. And that's why I think it'll go the distance. It'll go to that Game 7, which, Game 7 Stanley Cup Finals. That's the thing you're dreaming of. You're playing hockey on your driveway. Everyone wants to be in that moment. I just think
Hurricanes versus Avalanche.
Like I just ultimately think that shutdown ability will prevail. And it's not about being better. I think the Avalanche have more stars, way more stars, I'd argue. But when you're getting deep in the playoffs, it's that team that has stars, or not even stars, but the team that has depth all throughout their lineup. And I see that with both teams, but I really see it with the Hurricanes, and I think it's going to help them prevail. And that's my pick to win the Stanley Cup.
I'd just like to point out, I'll be quick. I'd like to point out that when we did this in February, I had the Avalanche beating the Hurricanes, and you had the Hurricanes beating the Avalanche. So you're sticking to your gut.
I've been sticking with it all year.
You're all in the whole entire season, having the Hurricanes versus Avalanche in the finals. Yeah, that is I have to give you some respect there, but we'll see what happens.
Exactly, 100%.
We'll see what happens in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah. What was that?
Yep. No, I was saying I can't wait for the playoffs to start. It's gonna be awesome.
And yeah, just one last thing about what you said. Tampa, Carolina. That'll be a rematch from last year. We know how that went. That was a high-scoring affair. I don't know if you guys remember that game where Carolina blew like a 4-goal lead. There was like 7 goals for, I don't know, something like that for Tampa in the second period. I remember that game very well. That was interesting, to say the least. But that'll be a very eventful series, and I think like we've talked about before, like we've talked about all throughout the episode, I think this will be the most entertaining Stanley Cup playoffs of all time. Just the game is just getting faster and more entertaining. Like even if your favorite team does get eliminated, and the rest of the NHL is just so I don't know, just so entertaining to watch. This is the best time to watch hockey right now, especially with the playoffs and everything. So I guess we'll send it to the outros. So yeah.
Yep. And
all right, guys. So that does it for our predictions. It's a fun traditional thing that we do every year. Love to have you boys on the podcast. This same episode is going up on Max's channel. If you want to check that over there, I believe his YouTube is in the comments section or in the description. But thank you boys for coming on. It's been a pleasure. It's been a long 2 hours, but it's been fun 2 hours to say the least. And hoping for a Leaf Stanley Cup. Boys in blue. It's gonna be an interesting series, but I'm riding with this Leafs team until I die. I hate to say it. I say every year after they get eliminated, I'm done. But maybe this is the year. Maybe not. We'll just have to see in a couple of weeks. We'll know. So, anyways, thank you boys for coming on the pod. And anything final to say?
Nope. Again. I've said it a few times, but it was an absolute blast. I love coming on here every year, just throwing out my predictions. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but as I just said, that's all part of the fun of it, and I can't wait. Go Leafs, go! Tough matchup ahead, but hey, you really never know.
And Jared, do you have a podcast for yourself you want to link?
I do. I'm a part of the Leafs Line podcast, which is represented by the Dynasty Sports Network. You could check those out. Obviously, Leafs Line, it's on YouTube. But as well, you could look on TikTok and Instagram and all different social media forms. Check out the Dynasty Sports Network. Absolute blast. A lot of sports videos. Just a bunch of different guys, a bunch of different one of my friends in the Ryerson Sport Media program, and we all just throw out our love of sports and make different content, make videos, write articles. You can check out our website as well. And feel free to check those out and check out some of the things we've been working on.
All right. Yep. All right, good stuff. And Max, anything you want to say?
I really enjoyed being on the pod. I know this is we don't really do this that often, but when we do, it's really fun to do. And I think doing this together, and obviously we only started this a bit ago, but doing this together is really fun. And doing this every year, I'm sure every year we'll have different predictions and different ways of thinking. But yeah, I just really enjoyed being on the pod, and hopefully I'll be on the pod sometime soon.
All right, perfect.
Bye.
Thank you, boys, for hopping on. Go Leafs, go! And
Sir.
all right, peace, guys.
Peace.